Welcome to the session called, there's a very long name of the session, about AMSI. So this session is about AMSI. So that's a very, very short name, so I like it more than this, just a huge word. So what we're going to do here, in this session, I'm going to cover very uncommonly known service, that feature that built into Windows called AMSI, or shortly that I called AMSI. Most of it, IT professionals called AMSI. And quite often when I talk to IT professionals about, do you know what AMSI is? They were like, not really. Or some of them may say, it's something about security, right? But quite often I hear like, we don't. So what I want to do here in this session, I want to show you many things about AMSI. So after that, you should know what AMSI is, benefits and weaknesses, and so how AMSI. Hello. Oh, well, whoa. Welcome back. So, I should say thank you for all our sponsors, and thank you because you also help to support that community, this conference. Quite often I ask a question about, do you know where I'm from? But here's a spoiler. I'm from Russia. And so also when I deliver sessions at conferences, I speak a lot at conferences, and you may find here, by the way, the short list. Also about Austria, I was a speaker at Global Azure Austria last year. So if you're curious, you may check my session. What I usually do, I work as pen tester, ethical hacker, whatever you call it. And so I'm trying to find weaknesses and how to bypass those, how those weaknesses in security configurations and how they may be bypassed. And AMSI will be one of those. Also, I'm an instructor, I teach sometimes, Microsoft MVP, and many other certifications. I don't think I need to read all of this. But what about the country I'm from? What I usually say, it's in my blood to show some hacking. And, quite often I speak at the conferences, and sometimes they send me feedback. That was my favorite commentary I ever received. So that's what you may expect from my sessions most of the time. But this session, first, before I start to show any hacking, I want to explain what AMSI is, because before to start to compromise AMSI, I want to tell you what AMSI is all about, because according to my experience, many IT professionals haven't faced with AMSI before, and so I need to explain you first what is that. Also, by the way, when I got a slide template from this conference, they say, look, we prefer live demos, so please don't create too many slides because we love demos. I also like demos. I also like demos, so you will not find many slides there. All right, so with that being said, let's get started, because we are quite short in time, to be fair, according to things I want to show you. So first, what I'm going to show you, what AMSI is. What is that? Then I will reverse engineer a bit to prove my point that AMSI is what I'm saying. And also, why do we need to reverse engineer? Because the topic number 3 will be how to bypass AMSI. So how attackers may somehow unload AMSI from PowerShell process and execute any commands they want. But to understand bypass methods, we must first understand how AMSI work. So that's why the second point is very important, and it may look a bit complicated for those who are really not aware of debugging and security. I will try to simplify that, but I told you. The second part will be not super straightforward. But first, let's take a look what AMSI is. And in the first part, I'm going to use slides. Then we're going to switch. So AMSI, if you haven't faced with that before, when you open PowerShell, You don't see that if you just open PowerShell, of course. But in the background, there's a special library called AMSI DLL, which is stored in System32, will be loaded to any PowerShell or PowerShell ISE process. And by the way, what is important? It will load to the process. It's not just exists somewhere. It will be attached to every process. And so that fact allows me to get some benefits. What will be the benefit? When I type some scripts and commands in PowerShell, so what will happen? The API will forward my commands and scripts to antivirus, which is Defender in my case, but it may be third-party antivirus if they work with AMSI. Not all AVs integrated with AMSI, but it may be third-party antivirus. And so it will be sent through RPC, and after Defender or any other antivirus analyze the data, the result will be sent back to AMSI. So that's from Microsoft. So this slide, this picture from Microsoft, it's looked pretty complicated, but it shows all AMSI relations. It may be used not only for PowerShell, but also for VBScript. But for the purpose of the session, because we're talking about PowerShell here, I can get it back. Thank you. But I made it a bit more simple because we are talking about PowerShell, right? So PowerShell, AMSI, antivirus, and RPC, of course. Now, so what will happen when we open PowerShell? So the first thing that will happen, we have number of APIs in AMSI. You may see the list of them. And so when we launch PowerShell, AMSI load and calls special API called AMSI initialize. So I will show you why it's important to note in the bypass part. So AMSI initialize will create a context, and so it will allow us to use next API. When we execute PowerShell command, it triggers another API called AMSI open session. All right, so AMSI open session. AMSI open session. What will happen? It will open the session, right? So it will accept what's called AMSI context. What AMSI context we will see a bit later, and create a session that will be used for scan. And then another API, AMSI scan string or buffer, depends on what command we're going to send, and they will be used to capture console input or script. Will be captured. And so Defender will be able to scan this buffer, and return the result back. So if the number that was returned is 32768, it means malicious. So something was wrong in that script. Some attackers probably tried to use some commands to attack the machine. If the result is 1, then session is clean. All right. So after that, once we scan complete, it will call another API called AMSI close session, and it will close the session. All right, so that's a quick intro. As I promised you, all the rest will be based on live demos. Sorry, here we go. And so let's start demos. So let me first give you a quick demo how AMSI works on the regular workstation. I'm going to open PowerShell. And let's try to execute command. So I will use a command called get data. Get date, because the output is quite short. So get date said, the simple output. Now, let's try to use something else. Let's say invoke Mimi cats. Whoops! M-I-M-K. We need M-I-M-I. Mimi, oh yeah. Oops, because of the different reason. Yeah, look at that. I know the red color doesn't look very nice here. That's okay. So it says antivirus block that command. And now let's try to do some smart things. Let's try to bypass that with with something that like obfuscate. And the first thing I want to do, I want to do it like this. So let me split the command into two parts: invoke hyphen plus mimikatz. So sometimes this obfuscation may work. So I can add a command, and then I will try to execute this variable. No. AV is not that stupid. AMSI is not that stupid. All right, let me just clean that. Let's try something even better. And the first, I will create another variable. By the way, if I try to do it, AV also block that. Yeah, that was blocked. So for the second, let me turn AV off for the second. Of course, I can do it on a different machine. I don't have to do it here, but let me just Windows security, just for a moment, just add one variable. Let's say here, I guess. Yeah, let me turn it off. And let me try edit again. Works. Let me get back this AV. All right. Now you know how to bypass AMSI. Just turn AV off. That was easy. All right, so let me try another command. So now what I want to do, I want to base64 encode it. So let me just do it like this. And let's take a look what we have. What hash do we have? So we have the hash like this. Let's try to execute this hash. So it's encrypted value, so maybe it will bypass AV. So I'm gonna say PowerShell and encoded text. Fingers crossed. Nope, nope, nope. So AMSI is not stupid. It will catch all the things that I'm trying to execute and scan it. Also, I have like last resort. There's a website which is called amsi.fail. And so what it does, you tell a command that you want to execute, like invoke mimikatz, click generate. I can say generate, let's say generate. And it tells me something like this. It's user reflection. Whew, let's try that. Probably the broke. That's just, everything's fine. That was commentary. No, look at this. So, AMSI is smart. AMSI is smart. That was my first plan to show you. By the way, every time when that happened, when AMSI blocked something, you may find that in event log, if you go to event viewer, and open application and services. Oh, that takes some time. Or Windows log. No, not Windows logs, application services log. So application services, then Defender, and in Defender you should be able to find when AMSI react. One more thing, if you're using Defender for endpoint also detects AMSI cases. Let me just show you that real quick. I will not show Defender because I need to log in and just let me avoid that. But here if I go to Windows Defender, where's that? Oh, here you go. So if I click operational, look at that. When I see warning, it means, oh, that was the AMSI bypass. Look at it. The last time when I use AMSI fail, it says you are trying to use AMSI bypass tool. Before that, probably it was mimikatz or something like that. PS attack tool, PowerShell PS attack tool. All right, makes sense? So that's simple thing. But now let's try to make one more step, because my goal here is to give you a bit deeper, dive deeper into AMSI. And now let me open that. The same machine, by the way. Sorry. Let me get back here. What I want to do now, I want to trace Oh, let me close that for simplicity. And close that. I want to trace the process. Open PowerShell again. And open CMD as well. What I need to define now first, I must know the PID, ID of the PowerShell process. So I'm going to go to details. Find PowerShell 8648. Now, I want to use a tool called Trace. That's the tool for reverse engineering. And I just need to change the process ID here. 86 what? 8648. Good, thank you. Now, we are attaching to the process. And what I want to do now, I want to switch to PowerShell. And let's test clean command, get date, and see the result. By the way, initialize. The AMSI initialize API was loaded already, so I will not be able to see it. But let me jump back to Frida. Damn it, let me scroll all the way up. Oof, thank you. Let me try to catch that. All right, and let's try to go down. And yeah, looks like on this projector, you cannot see it well. I will zoom it. So let's look at this. So it triggers AMSI Open Session API, accept, next one will be scan buffer. And in scan buffer, we have buffer called getDate. It also counts number of symbols, the length. We also have this one, context. We don't know what it is. And to be fair, Microsoft doesn't explain what context is, but it may be used, and I will show you how later. Now, so what we can see here is the result, and look at this. So in scan buffer, after we
and put them in a central repo, and I'm just going to skip that.
It wasn't me. All right. Okay. Hello again, dear TV watchers. All right. So we found the result of AMSI, and the result is, guess what? 1. So according to the slides I showed before, 1 means everything is fine. All right, let's try something else. Let me just clean that. Oh, thank you. Let's trace again. This time, let's try something else. Invoke Mimikatz as before. That's my new laptop. I have justification. All right. So that was stopped, and now let me scroll all the way up again. And yeah, so look at this again. Invoke Mimikatz was in the buffer, and in AMSI, if we look at the scan buffer exit, 32768, and that was blocked. All right. Malware. Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's how we can trace it and find out that those APIs really work. All right, so I hope it makes sense. And now we can move on and do some naughty things. Because we here see that AMSI stops my malicious code, my commands. But how we can bypass AMSI? So first way how to bypass you saw. Turn freaking antivirus off. But the problem is that I must have an admin right to turn AV off, and also, it's very noisy when you turn into AV off. So probably it will not work in a normal user context. But what do we know about AMSI? We know that AMSI DLL will be attached to the process. User process, so user mode process. No, DLL will be stored in the system 32, not that easy. But we can do something on the process level. And let's try to do that. So first what I want to do, I want to start the part where I may how to say it better? I may break your mind here because I will use debugger. And for these purposes, I'm going to attach PowerShell to debugger process, to debugger. And let me first find AMSI here. Oh, look at this. So AMSI was attached to the PowerShell process. So we have AMSI here. Now, to find out the possible problems with AMSI API, so with AMSI, what we must know. Let me show you now from official Microsoft documentation those APIs. So every API is documented. And you can see here, when we talk about any API, it has some arguments. And so one argument that's accepted by open session is called AMSI context. AMSI context. So the input is AMSI context, and the output is AMSI session. But no one explains what this AMSI context mean. But at the same time, if I reverse engineer, when I use Frida, I always have this AMSI context. So what we want to do, let me quickly try to take a look what this context is. So I'm going to say, I want to set a breakpoint on an API, AMSI open session. Sorry about that, but there's no way to explain it in a different manner, so I have to use debugger, and I will zoom to show you important things. So I set the breakpoint. Now what I want to do, I want to run that and type any command. Let me go back to, let's start from get data. Where's my pointer? Get date. So debugger cut the process. Now let's try to take a look what this context is. Again, it's not officially documented, so we're not sure, but let's check that. Let me jump to that, and let's take a look. So that's the construction that starts from the header called AMSI. For some reasons, this header is important because when they open the session, it accepts the argument stored here, the word AMSI, like with capital letters, AMSI. All right. That's what we know. Let's also unassemble. Open session API. And let me quickly read it for you, only important things. So when you look at the AMSI API, you will find here jump equal. So, here you go. So that's important. It compares what's stored in a RCX registry, which is context, to be fair. Why it's context, I will show you soon. With this construction. Let's take a look what we have in RCX, and then what does it mean 49, 53, 4D, 41, and H means in hex. So let me open another one. I know it's a bit complicated, but please wait for a few more minutes, because it's super important to understand how to bypass. I mean, if you want to understand how to bypass, it's important to understand that process. So according to what's called calling convention of x64 Windows calls, let me find that, how it pass parameters. So first parameter, we have only one parameter, will go to RCX. So we have one parameter, right? Context. And first parameter will go to RCX registry. So it proves that context will be stored in RCX. And we can find that again if I say, let's say DC RCX, and we see the same AMSI again. All right, so let me go back and to unassemble. And let's take a look now what's 4953 for the H1. You may have some guesses already. Do you have any guesses what it means? Say again, please. AMSI, exactly. So let me just try to show you that. If I convert from hex to text, and let me just, I'm not sure if I can copy those numbers. Let me try. I will try. Yeah, I can convert. And it's AMSI from right to left, because in processor we have what's called little endian from right to left. So let's go back. Just wait one more second. I will finish that craziness, and you will see ways how to bypass. Now it will compare context with the static word AMSI, and if not equal, J and E means jump not equal. If not equal, then it will jump here. So what it is, let me quickly unassemble that. And look at this. If you try to Google that, EIX means that's where the state sends. And this value, if you quickly check what it is, it means argument not correct. All right, I hope all of this is clear. Now, I can finish with this craziness. And so the idea, if in a header, in a context, there is no capital word AMSI, it will send the reply that, oops, sorry, I cannot open session because argument not correct. Because AMSI must accept argument context. There is no right argument. There is no session. Let's try that. So before that, we have get date. You saw invoke mimikatz in this session blocked. What I want to do first, I will do it from debugger. Then I'm going to show you how can we do it without debugger. Because debugger may look a bit complicated. So what I want to do, I want to modify RCX, the content of RCX registry. Where's my pointer? Oh, here we go. All right, and let me DC RCX again. I mean, DC means display. So I change value to PS22. No AMSI anymore, PS22. All right, so now let me continue. Get date was executed. Now, I will not even type it. I will just use it like this. Before that, it showed me an error. Now it will also show me an error because there is no module with this name, but it will be error like there's no such a command, but not the error like AV block that. So let's check. Let me zoom for those who cannot see it. So not recognized. Compare the errors. That was before, and that is after. Make sense? All right, and now we can say, hey, it's craziness to do all of this with debugger to block that AMSI how attackers can do it, because they will install debugger to victim machine to do it? No way, of course not. So what do we have in PowerShell, which is called reflection? By the way, let me just, or whatever. So we have what's called PowerShell reflection. And with PowerShell reflection, I can find out AMSI API right from the PowerShell and clear it. Oh, before this, let me just, oh, AMSI already stopped, so let me close that process first. And let me close debugger, it will close the process. I don't need that anymore. And let me open PowerShell again. So first, let's try to invoke Mimikatz again and see that AMSI was reattached. Oh, this is right. This time I typed it correctly. Unfortunately, there is no IntelliSense for that. So now it was blocked. What I want to do now, I want to use reflection. By the way, don't publish that, because all public methods, they're already blocked by AV. So you may use that, I don't mind, but don't publish that. So we found the context. So look at this. We using AMSI API. We found context, and I just make it 0. In my demo before, I made it at PS22. Here 0 doesn't really matter. I just changed the context, and let me type it. Just in case. So blocked before, and now just don't have this commandlet. All right, I know I have 15 minutes for Q&A, but if you don't mind, I'm going to show you one more demo, and then we're going to switch to Q&A. All right? Maybe you don't have many. Do you have questions that fill up 15 minutes part? No? No question? Any questions at all? Oh, you have questions, so I will reserve some couple of minutes. All right, let me show you one more thing. And that will be, what if we have, so I will use, do you know what Bloodhound is? Bloodhound. Have you heard about Bloodhound? So that's the tool, okay, many of you. So that's the tool that may be used to enumerate an Active Directory. So you may run that in your on-prem ID, and it will gather information about users, groups, and find the relations between them. And it can just build like the hacking path to some sensitive accounts. Like if you want to compromise domain admin, what do you need to do? So jump to this machine, find this credential, jump to another machine, and so on. All right, and so Bloodhound is a very well-known tool by antiviruses, and they try to block it. Bloodhound has, by the way, SharpHound, it's a collector, and Bloodhound, that's the part that I use to visualize. So I must run collector on the victim machine. So many antivirus, they block Bloodhound, and we have Win32 version and PowerShell version. Let me copy PowerShell version to here, and fingers crossed it must be blocked. Please do it. Yeah, that was blocked. So first thing I want to do, I want to obfuscate this SharpHound. Let me open Notepad. Regular Notepad will be okay. And the first thing I can try to do, hey, come on. In general, when you want to obfuscate some PowerShell scripts that should not be blocked by antivirus, first is to remove all help. I mean, all commentaries, because a number of things may be detected in commentaries. Example. Oh, now we finish commentaries here, and I can remove that. Save, and let's try again. Hey, come on, why you wasn't removed? Let me try to click on that. Yeah, so come on, clean it up. If I click refresh, maybe it will work. No. All right, let me just copy my copy. All right, let's see. The same. So was killed by AV. All right, let's try something else. Let me close that. Let me go back. And this time, I'm going to change some names. Let's say invoke Bloodhound. Let's say something like invoke. What? Killed? Cute. Ah, cute. Cute hound. Sweet hound. Cute hound. Let's try that. Let's say even cute found. You've done with that. And let's try again. Copy that. Paste here. Oh. To replace that. AV, any questions? Nope. So AV didn't say anything. Now let's take a look what AMSI will do. Import module, oh here, IntelliSense, I think that's auto-completion. Sharp hound copy. So even if the file, even if I was able to bypass AV by using remove the strings from the file itself, AMSI still scans that on the process level. So let's try to use reflection again. So you can see here, AMSI is very nice and beneficial part of operating system, but of course, as anything else, isn't a bulletproof. We finished the demo here. The last thing I want to show you is this one. I will have another session tomorrow. I'm not really sure about 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. because in my request it says 9 a.m. but on schedule it says 10. Let me say Tuesday. Sometime a.m. like that. In the tomorrow, I will also present about Active Directory, Azure AD, how to use PowerShell to get into the cloud. So how this time we'll use PowerShell the tool to compromise some other infrastructural things. And also, by the way, when we're going to enumerate, we will use Azure Hound, which is like a younger brother of Bloodhound. And also AMSI will stop me, but you know what to do with AMSI. All right, so now, yeah.
Is it the case that PowerShell v2 isn't using AMSI at all?
Yes, so that's one of the ways to bypass. So PowerShell v2 can bypass everything. Constraint language, AMSI, anything, but in Windows 10 and 11, PowerShell v2 not installed by default, so you may have PowerShell v2 only if you upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10, I mean.
I'm not 100% sure. It's because on my machine on Windows 10, I'm able to spawn PowerShell -v2.
If your machine is migrated and you have kept using it, it would not be automatically removed.
Okay.
If it's a new clean machine, it will. And you can still block PowerShell version 2 because I think it's can show in the DLLs by using something like AppLocker or device guard to block the DLL itself.
Okay.
Because that's not one mindset.
By the way, do I need to say what was the question? Because I guess the TV watchers may not hear you. So the question was, if we are using PowerShell v2, will we be able to bypass AMSI? Yes, that's the answer is yes, and PowerShell v2 can bypass anything we want. And so, by the way, about AMSI, AMSI that was the part of my general session about bypasses, so how to bypass AppLocker, antiviruses, and so on. And AMSI was a part, and especially for this conference, by the way, I extend that to to longer one. But yeah, V2 will help if you can use that, if you can trigger that, if you can open it. Yeah, V2 can do whatever you want. But of course, not everything will work in V2. All right, thank you. All right, so you first, and then few seconds difference.
Can we detect the unknowing or overwriting the context? Is that allowed?
Can we detect what?
What you did.
Overwrite.
The reflection. Can we detect when someone uses the reflection?
So the only one way, first, sorry. The question was, can we detect those bypasses? So only way I know is to enable PowerShell login, send that to SIM system, and then when you realize, all right, something is not correct, something is not fine in our environment, and you may go through those logs and find out command used to attack, or you may in your SIM system create alerts for like specific instructions that use a reflection. But in general, Defender for endpoint will not detect that. It will detect when AMSI stops something, but will not detect just the regular reflection. So the only one I know, enable PowerShell login and just a bunch of logs. But that's what I know. Thank you.
Everything you showed in the admin context. Does the reflection also work in normal user context? Because our normal users shouldn't have admin.
So in the only one reason I have admin rights. Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. So the question was, will all of that work without admin rights? So my answer, the only one reason why I'm using admin rights is because I want to turn on and turn off antivirus for that demo, but all other steps at the user context. So it doesn't really matter if I'm administrator or whatever. A regular user will have the same. The only one exception, I will not be able to turn the antivirus on and off, and I must jump back and forth, which will make demo not that smooth. But it will work for users. It will work in user context.
Thanks.
Welcome. Yeah.
You said AMSI is not perfect, but if I understood correctly what happened, it wasn't AMSI to be blamed, but it was PowerShell. PowerShell called AMSI. AMSI answered back, you're sending incorrect data, and rather than saying, oh, I'm doing something stupid, it just happily continued. And so it's a bug in PowerShell. This was PowerShell 5.1, right? What I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Have you checked if it's still in PowerShell 7?
I think so.
In both cases, have you reported it? Shouldn't you fix this?
The thing is, if you want to prevent the attacker from going there, you need to control the execution. There's a feature called constrained language mode, and the entire reflection thing would not have worked in constrained language mode. So the entire workaround would not work in a locked down environment. But you need to do that locking down, otherwise, of course.
That's also true. But still going back, the initial part, it's
PowerShell 7.
It's asking the API, it gets back, you're sending the wrong data, and it happily continuing.
Sorry, I didn't repeat the question. So the question was, will it work in PowerShell 7? It's like a bit stupidity of PowerShell, why it allows it to do it. So what Microsoft does to stop it? First of all, antivirus, Defender, it finds popular ways to trigger these AMSI tools and block it. So that's why I ask you to not publish that reflection I showed you before. So you may blame not really PowerShell, but antivirus. And you can see here PowerShell 7, the same thing. Really, when we use constraint language, that will not work. So I will not be able to use a reflection. I think I hear about constraint language today for the second time. I'm thinking maybe next time, if I will be selected as speaker, show how to bypass constraint language. I also have a session for that, not separate session, but a part of my bypassing session. But yeah, so the more things you add, then better protected you will be, of course. And constraint language, that's a good idea. Still may be bypassed, but not that easily. Thank you. We have 2.5 minutes. Yes.
Just one addition. I was just checking. There is already from Martin Goeth a KQL query for querying the security events. So when you have Sentinel or MDE, you can check for AMSI init failed directly. So that might be an easy way to detect and not look at your logs all the time.
The commentary was, so there was a publicly known, published KQL query to find out when AMSI fails to load, I guess, some of the APIs. And so, nice idea. It may, by the way, it may fail to load for many reasons. Maybe you have some false positives, but yeah, good idea. Thanks for addition. 1.5 minutes, so we can handle one or even more questions. Yes, here again.
Except to manipulating the assemblies, is there a way to obfuscate this kind of war that's still working? Because we saw an antidote fail. You have several methods for obfuscating.
Yes.
Is there one known which is working quite well currently?
So question was, is that only one way to obfuscate AMSI? There are many ways. I just show you one. My initial plan was to show you many bypass methods, but then I realized it may be too complicated for non-security conference. So one of the reasons why I talk about all of these APIs is because we can make modifications on in different APIs. Let me just give you another example where I have 46, 45, 44 seconds. API, do you remember next API after open session was scan buffer? And scan buffer found, so in scan buffer we had the command and length of command. So number of symbols, if you remember that. If you don't mind, I will not show it you again. So what we can do, in scan buffer, we can say, not invoke Mimikatz, but something different. Or buffer that you're going to scan is 0. Whoops. Oh, buffer is 0, nothing to scan. Exit. So many methods to bypass. I just show you one of them using Open Session API, how to close that shut session immediately. By the way, in this case, AMSI will not shut down, so KQL query will not probably help that KQL query. In another method, we can just say buffer is empty, so nothing to scan. Let's continue. So many ways to bypass AMSI. So you may just Google the word called AMSI patching, and you will find many of them. Probably if you're trying to use simple bypasses that from PowerShell, they will be blocked by antiviruses. But if you go deeper into the debugger, then you can do everything yourself there. All right. So looks like. Hey, where's looks like my. Oh, Q&A, that was the last slide. All right, so let me just say that, let me just go back again. Sorry, I will just use a few minutes. So what we did in this session. So first of all, we talk about AMSI in general. Then we try to understand how AMSI work like behind the scenes. And then we went even deeper to debugger and find out how DLL was attached and how those API work. And that knowledge allow us to find out some bypass methods. And I show you one method, how can we bypass from debugger, and how can we use that with the reflection without debugger. I hope that session was informative and not too complicated. That was my biggest fear of that conference, and it looks like that was not too bad. All right, so then thank you very much for your participation. Nice to...